This week's episode is brought to you by Campaign Refinery, an amazing new email marketing automation tool. Look, in the world of digital marketing, there's a lot to keep track of. We all know this. As much as we're in love with social media and the power of social conversation here at Social Link and on the All About Digital Marketing podcast, we are well aware at just how powerful email marketing can be. Email marketing is not dead. In fact, it's never been more important to help you leverage your presence everywhere else into the one channel that you'll own, regardless of what changes Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform makes in the future. I've known the founder, Travis Ketchum, for years, and he's been a past guest on the podcast, episode 15 if you want to listen to it. I've personally used his other products before, and they've been fantastic. The amount of thought that he's put into each and every one of what he's created has been incredible. I'd highly encourage you to try their free 14-day trial at campaignrefinery.com to see what world-class email marketing automation can do for you and your business. Massive thank you to Travis and Campaign Refinery for their support of the All About Digital Marketing show. Welcome to the All About Digital Marketing podcast, the show all about
digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Brought to you by Social Link, a digital marketing agency specializing in social media and content marketing for brave brands and forward-thinking SMEs. I'm your host, Chris Bruno, and as always, we're here to bring you the most actionable tips, tricks, tools, and insights to help you achieve more when it comes to your digital marketing. Subscribe to the show and be sure to share with a friend if you found something useful or interesting. You can find all the show notes and more information on www.allaboutdigitalmarketing.co.uk. Dave, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Dave, because we're going to be talking about remote businesses and how people can utilize this beautiful thing called remote working. But before we get started and before we get dug in, can you tell everyone who's listening a little bit about yourself, what you're currently doing, and the journey of how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. So I am currently living in Philadelphia, and I've been doing digital marketing for 8 years, which mostly spans across two companies. The first was Ninja Outreach. That was an influencer marketing software. That was an entirely remote business working with individuals from Europe, Asia, South America. I ran that for 4 or so years, and then we sold it. And then I started an agency called Shortlist. Shortlist is a digital marketing agency. We do website design and dev. We do SEO. We do growth marketing. I've also continued with the remote work model because I love it so much. The staff is also about 20 or so people, primarily in Eastern Europe. So work-wise, those are the areas that I've been kind of covering, agency and software. I also have done a lot of traveling because I run a remote business. I'm often just working off of my laptop. So my wife and I had spent about 5 or so years backpacking around the world between like 2012 and 2017 or so. So there's a lot of benefits as well that we could maybe get into in the conversation.
I can't wait. So I don't even know where to start. I'm getting excited. Right. Okay. So why choose the remote side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people worry about remote work. They're not used to it. They may worry about who are these people that they're working with that they've never met. They might worry about, is this person actually doing the work if I don't see them in the office? And those are all concerns that can and should be addressed. But there are amazing benefits to running and working with a remote team. Firstly, you can source talent from all over the world, and if you're not tied to a local office, there are amazing designers and developers and copywriters in places like Europe and Asia for prices that are significantly less than they are from countries where maybe many of your listeners are from, like America or the UK, for example. Additionally, the freedom that I mentioned to be able to go and travel wherever you want, whenever you want. Like I said, my wife and I took a 5-year backpacking trip while I ran Ninja Outreach and still managed to sort of grow the business, grow the team, have a successful exit. There was nothing kind of stopping us, despite the fact that I was in Bali or India or wherever I was. I also think that in many ways, individuals can be more productive working remotely. People love it. I mean, if you've ever actually been on not just running a remote business, but being on the flip side, working remotely, it generally correlates with stronger satisfaction among employees. They feel like they have more trust, that they're empowered more, that they have more of their day back. They're not spending time in traffic or commuting, and that's time that they can, work or do other things. So I think that there's a ton of benefits all around. It's not necessarily perfect. There are things that are difficult when people are not in the same place at the same time. There are a lot of tools and methods to improve that, which, I don't want to get into. I want to stop and allow you to actually ask some questions. So yeah, but I think a crazy benefits.
So I mean, I spent 2017 completely nomadic. I went to 22 different countries.
Wow.
Worked from my laptop whilst doing it the entire time, and ran the agency pretty much business as usual. I just happened to do it from various locations in Southeast Asia, Central America, Europe. And for me, it was probably one of the best years of my life. I got to experience things, move around, new cultures and everything else. And at the same time, it didn't affect my work. It didn't affect my ability to satisfy clients. And I think that's something that a lot of people fear, right? It can be quite scary to think, oh, well, I'm running around and how am I going to make sure that I work? And what about internet connection, everything else? And invariably, the internet today is pretty reliable pretty much everywhere in the world. There's a few dead spots, don't get me wrong, and you find those pretty quickly. But I do understand what you're saying. And I've met tons of people that do the same thing whilst I was traveling, and I'm sure you did too. And it's just, what you mentioned, the happy employee, the person who isn't having the life and soul sucked out of them by having to get public transport every day, 2 hours to go to work, 2 hours to come back, and to basically get to an office and end up having to sit in front of a computer anyway for 10 hours. Right? That's the crazy part, right?
It's true. It's crazy how much time people really spend commuting. Every once in a while, when I need to venture out of my my hole here, and I may get caught in traffic, which I've sort of forgotten what traffic is sometimes because I don't have a regular commute. I just go, man, how are people dealing with this all the time? And I'm just sort of cursing myself that I happen to kind of decide to run an errand at the wrong time of day. So definitely, there's a huge issue there that's solved with remote work. And the other point I wanted to just touch upon that you had mentioned was about people being concerned about Wi-Fi dead spots and how you're going to respond to clients and things like that. And while like you said, that's a valid concern, certainly certain parts of the world don't have as reliable connection as others, although you'd be surprised. I will say that as someone running a remote business for a number of years, it really taught me how to be more reliant on delegating tasks, on outsourcing, and essentially entrusting employees to get some of the work done, because I wasn't always able to take it all on myself. I may have had a 6-hour bus trip in the middle of the jungle or something like that. And I said, okay, well, if this needs to get done, how's it going to get done? And that really trained me to be a much more hands-off CEO.
I think it was Matt Johnson on this show in one of the very early episodes, and we were having a chat, and he said, my biggest piece of advice to any small business out there is to start right now and hire a VA, at least a VA, and get used to getting stuff off your desk, because it's one of the biggest kind of traps for, especially when you're running a small business or if you're just starting up or anything else, you kind of think, or you force yourself to believe that it's all on you, right? If you're not running the machine, it just won't work at all. And you kind of take more and more on, and you're trying to do absolutely everything. And actually what you just said, right? Being able to delegate and building a team around you, knowing who the people are, even if they are freelancers, even if it is outsourced VA work, it doesn't matter. But getting things off your desk, not just to be able to allow you to experience dead spots in terms of Wi-Fi connection, but also just right for mental health as a business owner. You need that kind of level of being able to take a step back and letting somebody else run with the ball for a bit, because otherwise you're just exhausted and there's no way you can do everything all day, every day and run your business at the same time.
Yeah, so many people are in that state, in that sort of exhausted entrepreneurial state. And there's a lot of information out there about productivity hacks, about being more efficient and things like that. And while I think there is a lot of great advice there, there's really no better productivity hack than just another person doing the work. Like the virtual assistant, it's like the ultimate productivity hack. There's nothing you can do yourself to just literally completely remove something like you can to just have somebody else do it. And so virtual assistants, I mean, there's so many available, capable individuals out there at very reasonable, affordable prices. I've been working with VAs now for a number of years. Ever since I read the 4 Hour Work Week, that just like inspired me to hire a VA like right away.
Bit of Tim Ferriss there. I'm a big fan as well. But I think that was about the same time as I started doing the same thing, and it was like that. Right, what are the mundane tasks that I hate doing? And now this sounds really awful, right? Because any VA out there listening is thinking, what a bad person he is. But the idea being was that it was exactly that. It was, I'm spending too many hours in front of a computer. There's got to be some of this that I can start handing off. And it became exactly that. So whether it was, I'd create content for the company at the early days and then hand it off to somebody else so that it was their responsibility to get it up onto the website, to then share the social media post or schedule the social media post for that week. All the kind of small parts that actually all mount up really quickly. And you spend sort of 20 minutes here and you do that 3 times a week. So that's already an hour. And then you spend half an hour there and you do that 5 days a week. And then another 20 minutes here. And you kind of start adding all these bits together. And you're like, wow, actually, I can straight up free, between 5, 6, 7 hours in my week. That's huge. That can be sort of the difference between going nuts very quickly and actually managing your stress levels.
Yeah, I mean, so many of us are not really aware of how much time gets quote unquote wasted doing those 20-minute tasks that you just mentioned. You did the math, and it really is many hours a week in a month, and that's time for taking up a new hobby. It's time for playing 18 holes. Time for spending time with the wife and the kid. I mean, it's kind of a game changer in terms of our mental health and just our ability to kind of work on our business and also maintain a personal life. And that's, I think, where the VA really comes in handy.
So you're in Philadelphia currently, and as you started your business, you started looking around, because when we say remote work, it doesn't have to be people obviously that are a million miles away and in 3 different time zones or anything else. But remote work, especially right now, right? We're recording this on the 21st of July, I think. Definitely the 21st of July. Sorry, I had to check. But we're recording this, right? It's just after the whole massive amounts of lockdowns in Europe and all over the place. And actually 90% of people have been working from home for the first time. They're kind of realizing what this remote work is. And I'm sure there must be companies out there that are thinking, you've got access to the global talent pool. You've also got access to a local talent pool. And you can do all of this now pretty easily, right? The communication tools that are available to us, the collaborative workspaces that are available to us. And I mean that sort of even online, not sort of WeWorks and everything else, but things like Google Drive, being able to collaborate on the same document at the same time live. Everyone has the ability to almost be in the same virtual room together. This has to be like a huge defining moment right now for other businesses, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're hitting a major tidal wave towards remote work. Obviously, we were kind of trending in that direction to begin with. If you consider, even just 6 months ago compared to 6 years ago or something like that. But if there was any accelerant that could be kind of put on this fire, it was definitely something like COVID. Now everybody has been forced to work remotely. Companies that didn't really have the infrastructure set up to do remote work, their hand was forced to sort of create that. People that are now experiencing it are loving it. A couple of people that I've talked with, like my wife's parents are both now working from home, working remotely. Friends that used to be going to the office are really enjoying it as well. So I think that it's going to be demanded more by individuals, and companies are already going to have the things in place because they've been through this. And even if they don't have everything buttoned up at the moment, they're going to want to be prepared for, I hate to say it, the next kind of COVID potential thing that might come out, at some point down the line, that people don't want to be caught off guard as much as they were this time. So I think that the wheels are really getting greased for remote work. I mean, I think, Zoom, for example, which we're using right now, is a company that, people I think in our space knew about it, digital marketing, entrepreneurs, we know Zoom because we use it every day. But when I have like my dad talking to me about Zoom, this is a guy who doesn't know how to use Bluetooth on the stereo. So, when somebody like that is mentioning, these companies, it means they're becoming household names. And that is essentially, in my case, a big indicator that remote work is kind of like exploding.
I had a bit of a blast from the past the other day. Somebody said to me, "Can we jump on a Skype call?"
I was like, that, whoa, that's
I hope
crazy.
you said no.
I had to hunt down, do the forgot password option, and I managed to connect. But yeah, they just refused straight up to get with the times and jump on anything else. I don't know why, but anyway, it made me giggle because I thought, I don't think I've used Skype in a couple of years. But anyway, that was interesting and fun. But yeah, I think that's probably what helped Zoom in their stock prices more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get completely carried away talking about remote working, because I love this subject and clearly you do too, the show, I have to remember, is called All About Digital Marketing. So I am going to ask you though, when you were running Ninja Outreach, you're running this remote business. How were you, or did you use that remote element to help build the business or to help market the business? Or did you just kind of market yourself as normal, but you just knew that you were running remote in the background?
So I think that, us running remote, on one hand, it sort of starts out of necessity in the sense that, I knew that we were going to be going, that we were already traveling when I started the business. So I knew it was going to be a remote business from the start. But you realize that as you start to hire a couple employees, and they are from different countries, different cultures, they've been doing remote work themselves as freelancers, that basically being a remote company becomes not just a necessity, but like part of the identity of the company. And it's really defined as being a remote business. And in the extent that affects marketing and growth of the company, I would revert back to some of the benefits that I mentioned earlier with remote work, which is that we were able to source talent from all over the world. We were able to build a bigger team on a smaller budget because people in Eastern Europe work for significantly less than they do in the US. And I think for us, honestly, I don't know if the company would have been successful if we had just started it in America and not done a remote team, not without raising money. There's just no way that I would have been able to bootstrap it out of my own finances like I was under the scenario that we did it. So, the choice of going remote was not, it was very impactful. It was not, it shaped the identity of the company. And I really think it shaped kind of the path of it being successful too.
Did you use it as part of sort of the spiel when you're talking to clients or other people? We are a remote company. We've got talent from all over the world. Did you kind of focus on that message, or was that just kind of in the background for yourself and you knew it was happening, but maybe clients didn't really have such an awareness?
I think with Ninja Outreach, it being a software business, people were less concerned about, how we were doing things on the back end and more concerned about, whether or not the product was any good and whether or not it did the job. And I don't remember remote that being really a part of the conversation. It is more a part of the conversation nowadays running the agency, because with the agency, the client to employee interaction is a lot stronger. They're often communicating with each other directly. And they're paying maybe like per hour for work to be done. And so the conversation of it being a remote business, people understanding that, they're kind of getting better prices because they know that the labor is cheaper. That is a bit more of the conversation. I think that is also a positive, for many people. And they're always really kind of, impressed, especially people that are not super aware or familiar with remote work to understand that we're running the whole thing out of Macedonia for the most part, which is a country that not a lot of people even really know where it is, if I'm being frank. So, it depends on the business model. Like I said, with Ninja Outreach, it was not so much part of the dialogue, but with Shortlist, it is.
I like that. And we're very upfront as well. I think there's some people that really don't like the idea of working, or they didn't like the idea of working with a remote team. And especially now after the last few months, people are realizing just how easy it is to continue or have business continuity when you all work online, right? We have all the communication tools, whether it be Zoom, Slack, Google, there's even WhatsApp, right? We've got certain clients that we keep an open line of comms with at all times, even on WhatsApp, because it's super easy for them. It means that when something comes to their minds, they can just ping us and get in touch. And I think that level of communication makes the remote part almost obsolete. It just comes down to the relationship that you can build, right? And regardless of where people are, I had one client in 2017 that used to absolutely hate me, but also because I never used to pretend that I wasn't doing what I was doing. And one day we had a call and he was like that, all right, okay, we finished the call. All the work stuff is done. Tell me where you are. And I was like that, right now I'm on a boat. I've just been diving and I'm waiting 40 minutes topside before I can go under again. I think at that point he swore, hung up, and then we spoke again the next morning. But right, so when you kind of realize the sort of things that you can do and the sort of lifestyle you can live, whilst also still providing the service at a high level, the communication, everything that needed to be done, but you were able to take a little bit more enjoyment about life. You were able to visit these new places and again, just maximize the potential of life so that you feel great at all times. And that then comes back through your work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add on that, I mean, yes, the enjoyment of life factor is huge. I mean, whether you're going diving or hiking up a volcano or the types of things that digital nomads are sort of known for. Another thing that's shouldn't be overlooked is just how much cheaper it is to live in a lot of these other countries. And if you are a bootstrapped entrepreneur, as I was, for example, when I started Ninja Outreach, this was also huge and shouldn't be overlooked for kind of extending the runway. It would have also been very stressful to kind of be in the States with a mortgage or an expensive apartment that I may have been paying for and just kind of trying to live this similar type of lifestyle that I was, living while I was traveling. It would have also been, a very stressful kind of add-on to that whole business endeavor. So another thing that should be considered if you're at that stage.
I like it. Right. So we're talking about Ninja Outreach. So you're traveling around the world and this is a software. So I'm guessing a SaaS model.
Yes.
So how did you start marketing your SaaS model?
Yeah. So this was back in 2014, and SaaS was definitely it was definitely known. It was a thing. It was maybe not as common as it is now. And same with outreach and influencer marketing. Very very common topics now, slightly less so then. So it was a little easier to, I think, get people interested in the software. In the beginning, people were kind of on the lookout for what we were building. Like I said, influencer marketing was very trendy, very hot. People were looking for all-in-one tools that would combine the whole experience of prospecting for influencers and doing outreach. They were looking for it at a reasonable small business price point. So say $50 to $150 a month, something like that. So that really helped us kind of generate some interest with Ninja Outreach in the beginning. We did a lot of outreach ourselves, to be honest. Certainly once we built the software, part of our marketing strategy was just to use it to reach out to people and manage the campaigns and have people try it. When you do have a software, one of the beautiful things about it is that you can kind of give it away for free at almost no cost to yourself in many cases. So a lot of the incentives that we were kind of using to get bloggers writing about it, affiliate marketers, promoting it, was saying, hey, we'll give you Ninja Outreach for life. It doesn't even matter. We just want people talking about it. So that was part of the strategy of kind of getting it off the ground. Later on, a lot of content marketing and SEO helped build traffic to the website so that we could finally, not have to just outreach for every sign up, but that it was much more organic. We never progressed to a level of any sort of sales team or enterprise sales. It just wasn't priced at that point. It was always a small business tool, but it was very much an organic strategy. So a lot of content marketing, a lot of SEO, a lot of networking, in Facebook groups and things like that.
What's your take currently on influencer marketing? Do you think that it's a useful tool for small to mid-sized companies right now, as a useful channel or useful way to get their message and their brand out there?
Yeah, I think it's very dependent on the specifics of the business and the message and what they're going for. I think that there were a lot of businesses that it's like, they heard influencer marketing was kind of like the trendy hot thing to do, and everybody was looking to kind of do it. And, oh, well, we have to be doing this because this is what everybody says we're doing. And in many cases, it wasn't really a good fit for them. They may, like, just for example, we had people sign up for Ninja Outreach that they were maybe like a jewelry shop. And it's like, well, how are you going to get somebody like talking about your product, like your product is like tens of thousands of dollars. Like, you can't just like ship this to a perfect stranger. I mean, it's just very logistically difficult, just for example. So in certain cases, influencer marketing was not very practical. There's also a big question about influencer marketing and kind of the results of the work. I mean, influencers often charge a lot of money. They're not cheap for the audiences that they have built. It could be hundreds of dollars for just an Instagram post or something like that. And there's almost no upper limit. So it's not always, super affordable for a small business, and it's always, a question about, well, how many people are actually seeing this message and then coming to buy, and marketing always struggles a little bit with kind of tracking and proving its results. And so in some ways, it's no different than many other marketing channels that you might be doing, with the exception of something like paid advertising. But yeah, it is always a little tricky. So I think there are basically businesses and campaigns when influencer marketing really makes a lot of sense. Where, like fashion niche, for example, where there's a lot of influencers and people basically base their purchasing decisions around the influencers that they follow. But there are plenty of other examples, probably more so, where I would not recommend influencer marketing, because maybe you don't have influencers in your niche, for example, or that's not how people make purchasing decisions, or it just isn't logistically or make a lot of cost sense.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you on that. And it's also there's been a lot of stories, right, where big followings that people have managed to build and everything else, and then trying to launch a brand on the back end of it and failing miserably, because it's not because somebody has a large following that means that's a large following that is interested in X, like you mentioned, fashion, for example. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. You're almost better off, maybe, and I'd like your opinion on this, but whether you'd be better off trying to get a smaller following niche influencer that really is within your industry, your niche, and that can help you to actually interact with the right kind of people, not just the amount of people, but actually the right quality of people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about, when you run an influencer marketing campaign, what is really important, what you should be looking at. I mean, the easiest thing that, just about every platform, social media like Instagram or Twitter, is going to show you is the size of somebody's following. But that is just such a poor metric to kind of indicate, the success of the campaign. It's much more important to understand the level of engagement of the audience. Is this an audience that's actually engaging with this influencer? They're responding to their tweets, they're liking things, they're actually getting a lot of visibility on the post that this person puts out, as well as the demographics of that audience. And do they mesh well with your target audience? Is it the percentage of men and women, and the age demographics, and all those different types of things are much better indicators for whether or not it's going to sort of make sense. I mean, it's very easy to manipulate the size of one's following. I mean, so many marketers are aware of different tools that people can use to grow their Instagram following, grow their Twitter following, a lot of follow and unfollow types of strategies and things like that. You can also buy fake followers, frankly. So these are all the types of things you need to be aware of when you think about running an influencer marketing campaign. Well, I don't want to say it's not for the faint of heart, but it's something that you have to know. You have to know a bit about what you're doing. I mean, isn't that always the case?
Absolutely, and that's why you and I have a job.
Yeah, right.
So that brings me to what you're doing now. So, is there anything in particular that you guys focus on as an agency, or are you pretty much all rounders?
Yeah, so I mean, ironically, we don't do influencer marketing, right? Which is, given my background and sort of the how much we've kind of talked about it today, it might come as a bit of a surprise. But it was just a channel that I didn't really want to get into, in this particular case. We specialize.
Hang on. I have to ask: is that just because you spent those 4 years very deep in it, and you were like that? I'm out.
So that's definitely a part of it. Yeah, there's a part of it where you just get a little almost tired of it, just because it was such a large part of what I was doing for 4 years. But just also, I saw, I don't know, the dark side of influencer marketing, and I just felt like I didn't want to be responsible for running that on behalf of clients. So that was, part of it as well. We started mainly with link building and SEO, which also has a dark side. It's just every side of marketing. Maybe marketing only has a dark side. I don't know, but but basically, what I liked about link building was that, it was very much the deliverable was very concrete. Obviously, the end result that the person is trying to achieve, which is to kind of rank maybe higher in the search engines, is still not as concrete, or it's not clear how many backlinks and of what quality is going to produce the desired result. Don't get me wrong, but at least in terms of saying, hey, you pay this, we give you this in terms of number of links, it was very transactional. I knew 100% that we could kind of deliver on that. And I liked that about that service. Whereas influencer marketing was like, you don't necessarily really know how many influencers are going to say yes and how much of their audience is going to engage and things like that. And so that was just kind of an area I didn't really feel comfortable getting into. I like marketing strategies and channels where the results are sort of more concrete. So we do, our core offering had always been SEO and link building. So certainly, again, on-page SEO, another one what you can kind of deliver kind of sort of on 100%. Like you can kind of see the errors that somebody has on their website. You can run particular audits and you can improve those one by one, and you'll see score and the website health kind of improve. So again, it's a very clear deliverable. Since kind of introducing with SEO and link building, we have added design and dev, which is another clear deliverable, as I mentioned, that I really like. And I like that it's not, it's not an SEO type thing, but it's more aesthetic. And we've also added some more growth marketing where we actually will pair a client with a growth marketer on our team, and that growth marketer will kind of create the strategy for the company and oversee the execution of it, which often incorporates things like SEO and link building and design and dev. So it's kind of a good segue into some of our other services.
I think that's awesome. And the one thing I've taken away is that you definitely do like clear deliverables, right? This is, and actually this is really refreshing. So, and we've had quite a few chats with a few different agency owners over the time. And I think it was with Jason Yormack in a previous episode. And again, he was like that, right? Anyone who is overly complicating the monthly reports that they're giving to their clients is basically doing it because it's not working. And we kind of dug into it, and he was telling a story. I think it was about the Air Force, and he works with them now as a client, and they try to basically run ads, right, to help recruitment on Facebook, social media. And literally the agency they've been doing it before was getting very poor results, but was showing, 30-page reports at the end of each month, which had basically any metric you could imagine possible that you could pull from all these platforms, and even some other, ridiculous kind of metrics that you just didn't need to be following, whether it was sentiment values and stuff like that. The end results were how many people signed up to potentially get recruited, right? That's all they cared about. We're spending X, and how many people at the end of it did we get? And I think that's something that's really, again, maybe this is the dark side of marketing, which now you're making me consider, is there nothing but a dark side of marketing? But I think that is one of those parts, right, where if you can clearly define the goals, this is what we're trying to achieve. And again, right, certain things. So we do a lot of social media marketing. We do a lot of content marketing as well for our clients. And it's not always easy to track straight away, right? And SEO, like you said, especially for that side of things, it can take a certain amount of time to start to see those results. But again, it's a fairly simple deliverable, right? Are we getting closer or further away from the goal? And the goal invariably is, a key metric that's been defined with the client as part of their growth strategy or their plan as a business. So I think that's really nice, though, to hear you talk about it in the sense of, being able to just be clean. I've got a good friend who always says that, keep it clean, everything clean. It's just, it works. We know what we're doing. They know what they're getting. Everyone's happy. And actually it makes for a much more pleasant transaction on everyone's side, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 100%. There are two sides to the coin. I think that to some degree, tracking marketing is very difficult, and there are often a lot of ancillary benefits in a campaign that are different from the primary goal, and you get this occasion where agencies want to prove and show all the value that they feel they've contributed, and so these large kind of reports get produced, which I don't think is the right way to go about it. But I kind of can understand sometimes the motivation. However, on the other side, you have a lot of clients that frankly don't understand digital marketing very well. It's not a super well-known field. It's not something you learn about that much like in school. And often, the reason that people hire an agency is because, they're not an expert on the topic and they're looking for experts to kind of help them out. And that creates an opportunity that unfortunately some agencies take advantage of to kind of dupe the client a little bit and to show them a bunch of nonsense that to make them think something is being done or that results are being achieved, and take advantage of the fact that the client maybe isn't aware enough to call them on the BS. That's given agencies somewhat of a poor reputation, which I hope we can kind of improve upon in the future.
I think it's always a challenging one, right? I don't say this about every agency. I hope our clients don't feel that way about us, and I'm sure yours don't about yourself either. But I do think it is one of those things, and you mentioned it there, right? Because people don't necessarily have the understanding, it feels like there's an ability to kind of pull the wool over their eyes. But I think even more so is that if you start reading online, so there's nothing more dangerous, as they say, than a little bit of information. And if people start reading online, right, there's no two marketers out there that agree 100% on the exact same strategy. So you'll have people shouting at the moment saying you've got to get on TikTok, even if you sell accounting software to, chartered accountants and only in a really specific niche, you should definitely be on TikTok. And you're like that, right? Well, I don't agree personally, but that's fine. But everyone's shouting about different sides of things. So it's very hard, especially for someone who's relatively new to it or relatively small amount of knowledge. They'll read something about SEO and that's it. It will click that they just think, what I need is SEO or social media ads. That's what I need. I have to push traffic through social media ads. And I think this is where I'd like to know from your side of things. When you start talking to a client, if they're invariably, do you find that what they think they need what they think they want isn't actually what they need?
It happens. It definitely happens. I think that when we start a campaign, we're always very focused on sort of customer satisfaction, and I don't want to take on anything that I don't think is going to kind of lead to sort of the end result that the client wants. So, what we're not going to do is we're not going to do what the client might say they think they should do if we don't think it's going to lead to the results that the client wants. What we're going to do is we're going to try to inform them, to let them know what we believe is the proper strategy, and say this is what we would be willing to execute on your behalf. And if they agree with us, then they will, and if they don't, then they won't. But that's I think the way to approach it, because sometimes people, they've read some article that that they need to be on TikTok like you mentioned or something like that, and they sort of come in with these opinions that it's a shame, because it's like they've done some of the legwork to try to kind of understand what's going on, but not enough to actually know what should be done, and you kind of get into these conversations where you have to kind of educate the person a bit.
So, Dave, I'm going to start asking you weird and wonderful questions now, just because it came to my head. But if you could only give one piece of advice to any small to mid-sized business that's listening about their digital marketing, what would it be?
I would say if you've got something that's working, see how you can double down on it.
I like that. Do you want to kind of help anyone that's listening to sort of what you mean by that?
Yeah. To elaborate, I felt this was kind of like a lightning round sort of question. So
I love that, but I love the lightning answer. But in my head, I'm thinking people are going, awesome, right? I'll just throw twice the money at it. And that might not necessarily be what you mean.
Yeah. So, Obviously, what I mean is you have to have something working, right? If you don't, then you may need to experiment with different channels. But I'm operating on the assumption that that a business is operating because it's got at least something working. That's why it's kind of a maintained sort of sustainable business. And if it does, I often find that people are saying, okay, well, that's working great. Well, we need to find something else. We need to find the next channel that we're going to approach. Whereas in reality, in most cases, people have not really exhausted a channel all of the way. They maybe not have optimized it. They haven't experimented with different approaches to it. If it's email outreach, they maybe haven't experimented with different templates, or they haven't thought about how they can message twice as many people, or whatever it is, or paid advertising, trying different audiences, things like that. It's just a much more low-hanging fruit. It's a lot easier to try to double down with something that's working than to try to make a channel completely from scratch kind of work on the same level that the other one is. So I would say until you really feel like you've exhausted all the different approaches to the one thing that's working, don't experiment with other channels. Just kind of double down.
I like that. And what would you say your favorite personal channel is right now, and why?
By personal channel, you mean
digitally? Like what's your perfect or your favorite channel whereby you consume, or that you spend time, or where you interact, or where you're engaging? What's your favorite?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I told you some tough, wonderful, weird questions. I don't know why it came to me that I thought I'd try this out. And you're the first guest, Dave, that's going through these random questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. For a long time, it was really blog content. I felt that there was just so much quality blog content out there. Obviously, there's a lot of garbage, but there some articles that are just really super well written. I love case studies, reading about those, because those are very results oriented approaches, and it's kind of usually not a lot of ways to kind of fake those. So blogging, case studies has sort of been my go-to approach for consuming information.
I love it. And just before we wrap up, where can people get in touch with you and have a conversation with you online?
Yeah, I'm not super active on social media, to be honest.
We'll have a chat about this offline after this. We'll have a chat.
It's my weird kind of digital marketing thing that I'm very not on social media, but I'm very responsive on email. So you can always shoot me an email, dave@shortlist.io, and obviously you can check out the website if you're interested, and I'll respond right away.
Awesome. Dave, thank you so much. I could really have carried on the conversation just about remote working, but I have to remind myself what the channel's called. But thank you for coming onto the show. Thank you for sharing some of your experiences, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
The All About Digital Marketing podcast is brought to you by Social Inc., a distributed digital marketing agency specialized in delivering results through online campaigns. Whether it's content marketing, social media marketing, online advertising, or web design, we've got you covered, from strategy through to delivery. If you're struggling with your digital marketing, get in touch today by simply visiting www.socialinc.co.